Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. We have a great list of topics for you all here today. As everybody is entering the stream, whether you're watching this live or on the rerun, hit that like button if you're watching on X or YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube to our channel. We are approaching 3,000 subscribers, so we're getting very, very close. We're within reaching distance. We could probably get there maybe by the end of the stream if everybody from our X definitely heads on over and subscribes on YouTube as well. Hello, Johnny74 USA in our YouTube chat saying good afternoon. Good afternoon indeed, because we are seeing the markets all in the green here today. The QQQ, SPY, Dow, Russell all at or approaching all-time highs. The VIX is in the red. The Prospero net option sentiment signals are showing good levels for the QQQ and SPY compared to where they've been most of the year. QQQ is now at 33 and SPY is at 30. So they're also very close to one another. But I'm going to run through all of the topics now. Great to see that we already have a lot of people tuning into the stream. So without further ado, let me run through some of these topics and then we'll get into them in detail later on when George tunes in. So we're going to go over our initial how George is feeling about the overall markets. We're in the first day of Q4, October 1st. I see Michael's in our chat saying, yo, what's up, Michael? Welcome to the stream today. We're going to talk about the jobs report that we got, the private payroll, and what that means if obviously the market is green, so it doesn't seem to care too much, but it was negative, and August was also revised negative. So we will ask George about that. Mario is saying, afternoon, guys and girls. Don't want to not include anybody here. Yeah. So good afternoon, Mario. Michael said, yes, sir. I love the energy. The energy is high. Everybody must be having a good day with the markets in the green. And after we get over that initial macro opening segment, we'll go into Tesla stock, which had good European sales. And the stock is responding positively and actually getting close to its prior all-time high from the end of last year. We are up to nearly $460 per share for Tesla stock, and it approached 480 in December of 2024. So we were getting very, very close, within 5%. Ori's here. Please send George happy Yom Kippur. Ori definitely will. He'll be in the stream in just a moment, so we can send our wishes soon to George. But yeah, we'll talk about Tesla, why there has been so much momentum, and if we can, not only reach the prior all-time high, but maybe approach 500, or dare I say even higher as the year goes on. We will also get into DraftKings stock, which is not having the same momentum as we were seeing for Tesla. It is actually heading the opposite direction, and we have to give credit to the marketing that some of these companies have done. They have spun gambling to prediction markets. So things like Kalshi, and we've seen Robinhood adding more prediction market stuff. It's affecting DraftKings stock. People are possibly switching from DraftKings to prediction markets or other gambling avenues, you could say. But it's whatever the case may be, it is not going well for DraftKings. The stock is down. So we will talk about with this new competition, can DraftKings regain momentum, become better? Maybe they'll have to adopt some of these prediction markets. So we will get into all of that. I also want to take a look around. We were covering the IPO. It seemed like around like a month or two ago, there were so many IPOs happening in the market. Well, now they've been around for a couple months. There's not as much hype as when the initial IPO happened. So we will look through some of the recent IPOs in 2025 this year, how they've performed so far, and ask George if how they performed in the short time frame is any indicator of how they will perform in the future, or just which ones he is most interested in watching at the moment. GameStop Power Pack cards, said Michael. Yeah, and then we'll go into the Buffett indicator, which we have brought up on the stream before, but it just keeps on climbing. And it is at 217% now, its highest level ever. So is this a sign of some dire things to come? I feel like on the stream, we've been kind of hinting and highlighting about how there's a lot of, even though the market's rallying and reaching all-time highs, it seems like there's some underlying fear that you can just sense across the market. So This Buffett indicator kind of plays into that a little bit more, and we'll see how important is it, and maybe how high can it go. We've crossed 200% now. Can we get to 300%, 400%? We'll ask George. And then for all of you that were in the stream on Monday, we talked about Amazon and Walmart and what George's opinions were on both. And he gave the opinion that he doesn't know if Walmart can compete against Amazon. And we have a further addition to that story. Amazon is launching basically a Five Below groceries brand. So just adding on to that story, over 1,000 items. So Amazon just continuing to produce, innovate at just amazing levels. Then, if anybody's watching who doesn't have the Prospero app, you got to download it. But if you guys do have the Prospero app and use it on a daily basis, let me see anybody who's watching on X or YouTube. If you check Prospero every day, the market's open. Just say anything in the chat right now. Let's see who our Prospero users are. But you guys will probably know that the China stocks have been popping on the short-term bull list left and right. I want to ask George today. So we know that China stocks are gaining momentum. Should we look beyond the China stocks to any other international markets? Mercado Libre has been in the Prospero signals a lot as a bullish pick. Um, I think Grab is a company that a lot of people are forming a bull narrative for, and I think they're in Asia too, but I think they're like in the Philippines and some other Asian countries. I see standard deviation said every day. JC all day long. Jonathan, yes, check every day. Johnny all day. Let's go. Thank you guys. I'm glad you're appreciating the Prospero signals. But yeah, we will talk about if there's any other international markets George is interested in at the moment, maybe Europe, Latin America, or anything else over the USA, which we know has run a lot. And then last but not least today, we will get into Netflix stock, which is getting caught up in some headline risk, as George says companies always like to avoid. I don't know if they could have necessarily done anything about this one because Elon Musk has just started his rampage against Netflix, seemingly. And he's saying cancel Netflix subscription, and the stock is red today. I don't know how much of it is because of his tweets and how much of a risk this is to Netflix, but we will get into that. Obviously, a stock that has run a lot, so it can have a little bit of give back. Um, but I think it is kind of interesting because George, in one of the articles he wrote for Fast Company, and which had to do with the Cracker Barrel situation, talked about how we see kind of in these culture war moves, we see one side kind of shifting the money more, and maybe this is actually more of a risk than even I'm giving it credit for Netflix. So we will get into all of that. At the end of the stream, we will do the model portfolio update. As always, look at this. We have this down to an exact science, seemingly. The man, the myth, the legend, George is tuning in right at the perfect time as I was just finished through all the topics. So hello, George. Welcome to the stream.
Wow.
Let me take another look at SPY QQQ, then option sentiments for anybody who missed it in the very beginning. We're seeing QQQ at 33, SPY at 31. So, George, in the beginning of this week, it seemed like one of the only maybe events that could negatively affect the markets was this government shutdown risk. We're seeing it approach. It's seeming, I think, more likely from everything I've seen. And the markets are up today, not seeming to care, all at or ripping through all-time highs. We see the net option sentiment in QQQ and SPY not doing bad. We even got some negative payroll. The ADP private payroll numbers came in at negative 32,000 for September, and it was revised lower for the August numbers from 54,000 to negative 3,000. So 2 months in a row now with negative numbers there. Where is all this bullish momentum coming from with negative jobs report, a looming risk, but I guess maybe it's not as much as a risk as it seems. But we're seeing, yeah, the market be resilient still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sending the stream.
By the way, we asked some people in the chat if they how often they use Prospero, and it looks like everybody that answered said every day. We got a few all day longs in the chat too, so people are loving the signals.
That's cool. How many? I kind of want to see how many all days we see here. Um, Yeah.
Actually, Marcin just asked about our Discord too, which is linked down below if you are watching on YouTube. So yeah, if you go in the YouTube description, it's linked right down there. You could join it through that link.
I appreciate that, Ori. I'm actually I'm leaving work early um to chop some things for the bagels. My mom called on me. So yeah, that gets me out before markets close tomorrow. Happy Yom Kippur to you too. I mean, not to call you out publicly, but I saw you. I think I saw you stop the newsletter, the paid newsletter. So would love to hear why that was. I thought you were like a full on believer in this. Um, but yeah, curious, if you give us some information why, um, we always want to make it better. Um, but yeah, in terms of like the macro, um, the bull stuff here, like I just think we're in just a bull momentum market, and in a bull momentum market, um, until you kind of see that momentum break, we're going to be in it. Um, and I think the best the I can't remember if it was this live stream where I was just talking to someone, but like someone talked to me. It's like on the macro side, what could break this? Like, what events are you looking for? Like, things along those lines. And the thing that I think that makes this so different than any other market is there's a call and response to how involved I think the government is with the economy, in the sense that it's just like the point that I brought up was like, well, I could see the market going down, and I could see this government um, buying the S&P 500, buying Bitcoin, basically actually actively supporting the market, right? So if you're asking me, what event could definitively kind of move the market down on that basis, I don't know. We are seeing, I'd say especially with the jobs market, sign of the macroeconomy slowing down. We're seeing signs that, the government, obviously a huge distributor of money into the economy through their, employment practices, especially, potentially shutting down. That doesn't seem to be stopping anyone, because I think the perception around this now, I think, is kind of what we saw after the first tariff fear, right? Where there was a lot of fears around them happening, but then as people realized that, the government absolutely wanted to support strong markets, and a lot of these tensions were just used to negotiate, which is I do what we believe we're seeing here. That's what we're getting now. We're not really getting a market that is acting like this is a shutdown and it's going to be an extended shutdown. We're getting a market that I think is treating this like, yeah, we're shut down now, but you know, I think people are going to feel the pain of this. And I think they're like one side, probably the Democrats are gonna, back down and, give, Trump whatever he's looking for this, or at least, more towards his zone. I mean, I actually saw a recent like an announcement today that Trump was turning off some like $18 billion of like public works, or it was like a subway project and everything, to New York. And a few days ago, I saw that leading up to it, he was like basically saying something to the effect of, I don't mind if the government shuts down. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to, hurt, my opponents to a certain extent. So I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, I think we're seeing like a lot of capitulation to whatever the Trump administration wants. And in some senses, I think those are some kind of scary precedents being set. But as investors, I think the support of the stock market is clear. So, however much you might be worried about that kind of capitulation in a macro sense, it's probably good for you as an investor, even if that concentration of that kind of concentration of control, very likely meaning strong support of the markets on an ongoing basis, which is where we're started, right? I actually think this administration, to actually prevent a bigger decline in the market, it would actually be on the table to actually use government funds to buy stocks.
Well, that would be super interesting. And we have Ori in our YouTube chat asking about Palantir and the upside breakout dropping from 100 to 65 over the course of a month.
Warren just ignored what I said, and he's moving on. He's moving on to the next question. The thing about our signals, like the nice thing is that it's very objective, very clear. You don't have to think too much about them. Um, the flip side of that is we didn't really build these to be, all that explainable. What I can tell you, because I've looked at this myself, some of the decline is just, options contracts that used to be considered by our system longer term options contracts, have shifted into the shorter term ones. So that's why you're still seeing kind of like a robust net option sentiment because the demand's still there. But it certainly means there's not as many new options contracts being originated, or sorry, being the demand for them in the long term options markets, um, and you could venture a guess on any number of business related things that I'm not sure would be the most solid reading. Um, I'm just like I would say what my understanding of that would be is just that people are nervous that it can maintain these valuations in the long term without getting a bit of correction. I wouldn't be surprised, I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Palantir went down 15, 20, 30% if that upside didn't get very attractive again.
George, do you have any probability you would put to the government actually buying Bitcoin? Michael's asking.
Didn't it buy some already? I thought it bought a little, like nothing big, but I thought that was an announcement a while ago that they
I
bought some.
I think what they did was all of the Bitcoin they got from like either like criminals or whatever, they just aren't selling, they said. People thought they were going to buy some, but I don't think they actually have yet.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily high. Um, and this is just a number I'm tossing out there. But like I feel like about 5-10% seems like how I would think about it. Whether that's to, stabilize the economy along with other purchases, or whether it's to just, buy it to keep in the treasury, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think it's insignificant, but I don't think it's high either.
So one stock that is gaining tons of momentum is Tesla, and positive European sales just came out that I think boosted the stock even more today. But I would love to see like a sentiment poll of people like back in April if you asked them, is Tesla going to reach a new all-time high in 2025? I bet you, I don't know what you think it would be, but I bet you like under 20%, maybe under 10% would have said yes. And now it seems like it's almost unavoidable. We are within 4% ish from all time highs. We're at 460 now, all time highs 480. Do you see anything stopping Tesla at this point with seemingly things heading in the right direction and kind of the headlines and the chaos surrounding it seem to have subsided?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna share. There's a pretty good graph I put together that I want to share. Um, there was a thread that Holmar's blog did um, on X where I actually showed we've actually been expecting this, or the upside signal, I'd say, especially. Even when Tesla was trading at $225, we had it at 100 upside, which is um, case study, and something at 100 upside. Like, for those not familiar, the main stocks that have had long stays at the top of 100 upside were Meta, Coinbase, Palantir, and now Tesla. Not that many, but we're pretty much 4 for 4 on those long trips at 100 upside, being bull signals. But yeah, I mean, I think this is such a retail driven stock, and you know anywhere where you can make the case that um that the numbers, could meet it. There's a lot of excitement around FSD. There's a lot of excitement around the Optimist. I feel like we were talking about this just last week. Um, you know, that's going to be bought up. It's going to be bought up. Tesla, I think, in an interesting thing to be at 100 upside. It's probably the first stock I can remember having such good Prospero signals while seeing sales declines, right? That just kind of shows you the kind of institutional and retail faith in the company. So I think that I think that this is the kind of thing where it's just like, we've already seen that even sales problems are not really going to affect the stock because of the long-term possibilities for it. So, the question then becomes, like, what could really get in the way of it, right? Because we're not going to figure out, the full story on full self-driving for a bit. Um we're not going to figure out even more so, what kind of market the Optimist has, when. So you kind of have to look at it like that. People are going to continue to bet um, on that, and we might have seen, I think, around that 225 level, um, unless one of these products, or multiple, unless they're just not, let's give a short-term catalyst, unless they're just not in the game for full self-driving, like Waymo or blah, 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 whatever combination of others are beating them in the full self-driving. I think we probably saw the lowest Tesla stock is going to go for a while.
Like you were saying, like the shareholders of this company were put through the ringer earlier this year. Does that shake out, and then the investor base that's left, they're, like, for lack of a better term, like diamond handing, like they're kind of with this company. Does that affect the performance of a stock? Does it, like, change the volatility? And does it matter for you when you see that, like, a company that's gone through something crazy, that anybody who was going to sell it probably sold it when all of that panic was going on, and now that they've come out on the other side? um, how, how do you view, like, an investor base of a company? Does it matter to you?
I'm not sure that the drivers of that decline were a lot of, I think, the retail army, like, obviously, with um working with Homar's blog. He's a big Tesla influencer on X. I see tons of people that have just had been in Tesla. They've been in Tesla the whole time. So I'm not sure the price was really moving down on those kind of shareholders. But I think applying your logic to institutions, um, I definitely think is powerful. Like, I think that there were some institutions that probably lost faith in the whole thing, thought maybe Elon Musk had lost his mojo, and weren't willing to price the stock that aggressively based on earnings as a result anymore. But I think some of those have definitely shaken out, and probably the institutions that are buying and holding now, um, those institutions probably have now seen that, you know, maybe weathering, like, maybe Elon Musk was probably able to weather the most difficult storm we've seen. Um, So yeah, I think you probably have a stronger institutional fortitude now at this point.
I want to bring up prediction markets on the stream today because we are seeing headlines from predictions markets success, like the one we got from Kalshi, which saw a record trading over the weekend, 260 million on Saturday, 275 million on Sunday. Affect DraftKings stock negatively, which has been down today, down over the past couple of weeks and months, not really doing well. It's interesting. I never really thought of prediction markets as like gambling, but it now the way I see DraftKings react, it basically seems like gambling rebranded as prediction markets. And we're seeing Kalshi and Robinhood dive into this. Is this competition like very concerning to DraftKings stock? We're seeing it already affect it. How do you view the dynamic between all of that there?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely concerning. Um, I think Robinhood especially, um, because there's if the amount that Robinhood has in terms of the resources and funding, I think, um, and they are very good at product. Um, I think they could really be trouble. Um, because if you think of it this way, everybody wants an app where they can do everything, right? And if you start to get your investors, you start to get to maybe to gamble a little more than they would. And, you know, I also think it's a good, marketing advertising. Someone has, won money in gambling, they can easily like put it into stocks. That's a good, I think that's a good potential like marketing campaign or for something for them. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for them to really win big on an everything app, because if you also think about that, it lowers, if they can get you in there and get you gambling and um and investing, trading, that is a lower relative customer acquisition cost.
So I wonder if you think, could Robinhood ever acquire DraftKings? Robinhood's about 125 billion market cap, DraftKings about 16 billion. I know Robinhood gets praised for its UI, and I think within the gambling, like sports betting, DraftKings is thought of as having the best UI. So could you see them ever combining, joining forces, especially if DraftKings stock is not working with the competition that they're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, um I think that um it's a little expensive for Robinhood. Like, I think maybe if they can get it on a discount to 16 billion, but you always have to think about in an acquisition, like how much would it cost to acquire that? Like, you know, once they like expand their gambling things, I really feel like they could probably acquire or reach the DraftKings user base with a lot less than 16 billion in marketing.
Michael is asking about your opinion on GameStop power packs, inherently gambling on PSA cards. Any thoughts?
Um, my thoughts on like that as like a biz, like I'm not sure exactly what you want my thoughts on in response to that. I mean, it's a good it's a good business. Like, that business is as old as time. That's basically what you were doing when you bought like baseball cards, right? It's all gambling. Like the chance of you having a good uh you know getting a good baseball card in a pack is, very similar. But they're, not only is that a good business, people always kind of like to gamble by buying things. Um, but uh, it's good when you also have an audience that is like kind of like a gambling instinct audience, right? A lot of the GameStop people are kind of like gamblers, that also want to buy products to support. I think it's smart.
Getting good questions from the audience today. Thank you, everybody. We have Preston asking if you would ever expand the charts within Prospero. uh, like for net option sentiment to say a couple months versus just the 2 weeks about that it is now?
Um, so in terms of the expanded time, um, it's hard because we don't like part of what we're doing is we don't want institutions like scraping um uh scraping our data. So like could we go a month back, 2 months back? Probably. But when we do that, we're just kind of making it easier for institutions to scrape that data. And we really like we think it works. Our system continues to perform so well because we kind of make it hard for people to get access of it. We don't sell API access. So it's a bit of a back and forth. We're, especially as the crowd fund, dies down, we are going to absolutely start to think more, or, sorry, that ends. Um, I am the demands of my time by the crowd fund dies down, which I'm very much looking forward to. Um, then we're going to start looking at like where do we go next. We'll have a lot of new people in our ecosystem in the fold. One of the things we've talked about is having kind of like a community voting um, for the features. So we start to really have like our users direct our engineering resources a lot more. We're excited to like, move towards that kind of change.
Building off Preston's, I think it'd be cool if instead of just having the graph lengthened, if you could like click on the signal and then maybe it would pop up with the average of like the past week, month, year. And then you could see like how it compares to that, maybe where it is at currently. And it's kind of similar, it would show you a bit more of the history in terms of like what Preston is trying to get after there. We have another question from Mario asking about your thoughts on Amazon expanding into Mexico and South America. Is that a concern for Mercado Libre? Can they compete better than Amazon? I mean, Walmart can.
I did see Mercado Libre um, kind of a lower momentum score today. I'm seeing downside rise. I mean, I think it's very hard when you're starting to talk about, and I think this is a good lesson in value investing. When you're starting to talk about like, um, can Amazon do that? What about Mercado Libre and markets like that? Like, I could do more research, but I'm not gonna speculate on it, right? Because I don't really know people that well in, Central America, South America. Like I know tons of them, but I don't know how they think about it. For all I know, they could say like, screw Amazon. Like I don't like what they're doing up here, and I'll pay a little like even if they come in cheaper. I'd rather stick with Mercado Libre or if or like again, we don't know how much cheaper they are, right? I think there's a lot of variables there that would kind of be an interesting question um, for perplexity. But the only thing that all being said, um, I think few companies beat Amazon on strategy just because their strategy process and the way they apply expand is, so like refined and smart. Um, so all those things I just said are true. I'd hesitate. I'd be a little worried about Mercado Libre, but I don't necessarily know all the variables. I'd know well enough to say how worried.
Well, this question actually blends two topics that I wanted to bring up today perfectly. So one of them was building on what you were just saying about how good Amazon is. They announced they're launching a basically Five Below grocery line of 1,000 items, different meats, fishes, produce, snacks, dairy, and it actually sent like Walmart, Costco, Target, like all of those companies lower when it was announced. But then also, besides the Amazon innovation there, and it's interesting how Mario brought up, South America. I wanted to ask you, like the China stocks have been so hot in our signals. Are any other international markets interesting to you at the moment, or is it just USA, China, and nothing else, or does anything else catch your attention?
Um, no, I mean, I don't really, again, and I think it kind of is an important thing to harp on. I think to do, whether it's momentum investing or value investing or a lot of the different styles that I blend, I think you really need to have a better cultural understanding than I do a lot of these markets. And obviously in China, we talk about like, the reporting is an issue in China. Um, so yeah, like that is definitely something that it's perfectly you could do some deep research and find an edge on some international companies, and if you have the itch for that, I encourage you to do it. That is not the best use of my time.
And I would think that like the Magnificent Seven and a lot of the companies that are either $100 billion plus already have some pretty good exposure. They're pretty international as it is, even though maybe USA is their biggest market. They all kind of seem to expand beyond. Um, Michael asks another question: how many more rate cuts do you think will happen this year?
um how many meetings do we have? I think we have two, maybe three. Let me check. I'm going to look at, let's see. Damn, we're now at a 99%. Um, okay, only two more meetings. Two more meetings, and yeah, we've got an 86.7% chance of another 0.25. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident in saying we're gonna get two more rate cuts at 0.25% each.
We got another app suggestion from Marcin. I feel like we have to be collecting all these. Maybe we should start like a docs where people can save their ideas so we don't lose any good ones. About live notifications on your picks appearing, disappearing in your top 10 choices. So I guess the short term bull list and all that.
Wait, what do you mean about live no? Oh, like you could mark them, and if they come in or out of the list, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea.
I want to bring up the IPOs because there was a flurry of IPOs in the market this year, and now that they've been around for a couple months and some of that uh, IPO hype has worn off, not all of them are performing that well. So I'm going to go through a list right now, plus their performance since IPOing, and then we'll get your thoughts on if their performance so far is indicative of how they will perform going forward, and then just if any of them are interesting to you still after the moves they have made. So, StubHub down 27%, Firefly down 41%, CoreWeave up 236%, Figma down 44%, Klarna down 5%, Bullish plus 66%, and Circle up 328%. So it is interesting to me. Circle is still above CoreWeave, which is I feel like is a bit surprising. But out of that list, what interests you, and if they're positive or negative so far in the few months that they've been public, is that indicative of the next 6 to 12 months what people will think of them?
Um, mm, I don't know. I think that I mean, I think CoreWeave is interesting, but I think a lot of like I think either these IPOs, and it's only interesting because I think it has a lot of potential and a lot of momentum, but like from a value perspective, it's a bit scary. Um, but yeah, I mean, basically, uh, I think you fall into two categories on these IPOs. You had a lot of attention, and I think you probably got a little overpriced, or even in a very frothy market for IPOs, you didn't do that well. Um, And I think that kind of like I think that's a scary idea um for you. I mean, like if you look at Klarna, for example, right? Klarna is a stock that, I heard a lot of people were talking about it on Reddit. It's a brand that people know. They're obviously very heavily invested in, scaling AI, everything like that. Um, but it couldn't really generate that retail interest. So I think that makes it a scary investment relative to other stocks.
Well, I want to get your opinion on if this is scary as well. So we brought up the Buffett indicator on the streams before, which is the total market cap, stock market divided by gross national product, and it's now hitting its highest level of all time, 217%. Does that make you fearful? And if not, how high can this indicator go? Is this indicator like, would it be a predictor in the past and it's not so much anymore? Do you think it's outdated now? What are your thoughts on it?
Um, I think like we've talked about this. I think like the classical like value market is dead. Like I really just I think that there are value investments to be found. Um and I think the only place the value investments are to be found are probably like companies that retail isn't interested in because they're bored. They don't find them to be interesting enough companies. Um, so yeah, I definitely think that that uh that those they're not going to matter much anymore. Like I think where value is going to start to matter again is if there is a correction and people are going to start to be wondering like what has more support. But in this momentum market, I think whether, I expect it to keep getting even more out of whack. I don't think it really clearly we're not being governed by that right now.
Michael's asking about your thoughts on EA. Michael, we did go into detail on this on Monday, but I don't know, George, if you want to give your quick thoughts of them going private.
Um, my quick thoughts are this. Uh, EA going private and whatever made that an interesting deal for them economically. You look at the parties involved in that deal. They're getting something beyond the products, and that's all I'm gonna say.
It was an interesting group of buyers, that is for sure. It seems like EA Sports is connected now, you could say. We have one more topic to cover on the stream today. We have had a lot of people in the chat, so thank you all so much. It's been great. The energy has been high. If you have any more questions before we do our switch over, let us know. You got a couple more moments to type away. But the last topic I have for you, George, is Netflix stock lower today after Elon Musk has begun a Twitter storm against Netflix. So I think there's been two tweets now so far in just the past 24 hours of him telling people to cancel their Netflix accounts, and it's wrapped in the culture war stuff. But the only reason I think this may be a little bit significant is because of like the article you wrote about Cracker Barrel, where how, whether you're on the left or right, it seems like one side is affecting stocks in terms of just the way they move in the markets more. So, does this have the potential to really kind of affect Netflix stock, which has run a lot?
Wait, what's the culture war thing? Like, what's Elon Musk's beef with Netflix?
He just thinks they're producing woke stuff, I guess. Like,
Oh.
that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article about that. I absolutely think, as to simplify, this is not how I would really call these groups myself, but to categorize, I do think the anti-woke group votes with their dollars more than the woke group. Um, and I think um, until that changes, I also think that um, the the anti woke group is going to have things pandered to them more.
So you would take this as real headline risk for the stock then?
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I
Um,
wouldn't be shorting it, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't be buying it either.
Hmm. Well, that is all the topics we have for today. We can take a look at QQQ and SPY. It looks like we're still at 32 and 29, so not much change. George is going to tune back in with us all from the Prospero Lab. Everybody, stick with me. If you're new to the streams, what we do now is we do the model portfolio update. So George will make live changes to the model portfolio, adding and dropping stocks. So you get to see his live moves and how he manages the portfolio that has performed very, very well. Michael said bye bye. God bless you, George. George will be right back. So don't say goodbye just yet, Mike. He'll be right back in the streams. He is just doing a switchover so he can get on his computer to do the update. But let me take a look at the QQ SPY, Dow, Russell, see if anything has changed since we've been live. So QQQ up about 0.5%. SPY, Dow, Russell, all up a little bit less than the QQQ. VIX approaching 2% red on the day. Let's see where Bitcoin is at. Bitcoin, which we just posted a short about it on all of our socials if you want to check that out before we went live today, is where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is up 3% today. And let's see, the short we posted was about Bitcoin versus iron in Q4, and iron is flat. So looks like a good prediction so far. George said he thinks Bitcoin is going to outperform iron stocks. So day one is a success on that prediction. Let's take a look at the overall markets. The Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, green. Meta red, Microsoft green, Tesla very green. Take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA stock is green as well, although ever so slightly. If you guys haven't liked yet, be sure to like the live. It helps us helps us in the algo on YouTube, on X as well. And we're trying to grow the streams. If you find some value, throw a like on it. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Michael said Uptober. Uptober. We are currently experiencing an Uptober. And what did you call November before? November or something?
Me?
No, no, no. I'm talking to Michael. Michael in the chat.
Yeah, Ripvember does not sound like something I would say.
Oh no, it was Moonvember.
All right. So where are...
Followed by Bullsummer. He's got one for every month.
Here you go. Okay. Okay. I wish I had more time. Okay. We do these. Did I grab this yet? No. All right. What do we got here, Steven?
We have 32 for QQQ and 29 for SPY. Small caps charging back today after a bit of a slump. We will look for bull opportunities there. We'll also look in large caps. Large cap growth bulls.
I knew I shouldn't have dropped Moderna. Or not, is that what it is? mRNA. I think that's Moderna. I just had like a feeling. It's up a bunch today.
If this stock, Bloom Energy, is up the rest of the week, we're going to have to talk about it on Monday. It's going crazy.
We are in October. It's crazy. Oh, and the model portfolio is almost above 30% above the market again. It's been a while since we've been there. Look, even this old portfolio is climbing. Climbing back above 30% above the market. It's pretty cool. I guess we got a lot of good winners lately. It's hard. It's hard to, the model portfolio is like, a big old ship turns slowly. Is eBay a win? What's going on with us on eBay? I might just.
eBay is a loss.
Okay, we got 42. 37. Okay.
Do you know what the largest raw return is of any stock in the model portfolio right now? BKKT.
Really?
Up 88% since September 26th.
Damn, we got in that one at the right time. Chalk one up for a good momentum score.
Mm-hmm. Marcin is asking, what is George doing now? Model portfolio update.
You want to explain a little more about what the model portfolio is, Stephen?
So we have the investing and the trading letter, Marcin. This is the trading letter, and he's making live updates to it, what we're adding and dropping into it. And we do this on every stream at the end, which is you have to pay for the trading letter, but you get to see it for free at the end of the stream. So you're getting some of that. That's why you got to stick around till the end of the streams. But yeah, we're just making updates to it.
Yeah, you only get to see this twice a week for the moves, though. That's the other downside.
Preston said, "This is a pretty cool stream. Love watching it. Have to tune in more." Thank you, Preston. Appreciate the good feedback.
Yeah, see, Melly is down at the bottom of. I thought I saw that, but I was like, that's weird.
Let's go. Marcin said he signed up for the newsletter. So you'll be getting to see it all the time then.
Okay, let's see. Let's look what we have along first. The wolf thing is interesting. It's come out of bankruptcy. Like, look at all this.
They're back to life?
Yeah, what the hell is going on with all this healthcare stuff?
It is October. It reminds me of that meme where like a skeleton just rips out of the grave, back to life. I guess second win for Wolf.
Yeah, that like upside is interesting. I definitely want to look into it more. BKKT is I don't want to lean too much into this. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of healthcare on the momentum, no?
Definitely. I don't think I want. Maybe one. Oh, Pfizer is. New York Times is an interesting one there.
Marcin, you'll get the updates right in your email, in your mailbox for the newsletters.
We gotta hurry and do. So many. I did just want to take a look at. Oh, I wanted to add one.
Marcin said, "Awesome! I've become your founding member. Proud to be a part of this great app."
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, the Prospero community.
We welcome you and we appreciate your support. I am doing. I'm just doing a little ad. Got that in. All right, now we're done. Any questions?
Nothing after Marcin's awesome comment. That'll be all, folks. We'll be back Monday, 11 a.m. as usual. Hope to see everybody then. Have a great rest of your week. See you, George. Thanks for all the insights you gave us today.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, everybody.